Hello there, it's Scott Tickers of How to Write Funny, and I'm live tonight on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch to go over a student's corporate speech and give it notes, try to punch it up, and see if we can make it a really solid, funny corporate speech. A lot of times people want to learn comedy just so they can punch up a corporate speech. Corporate comedy is tricky in general because you have to be appropriate generally, and that just kind of ruins everything. Like who's interested in a really juicy, appropriate joke? Nobody. So clean comedy is hard. Comedians like Jerry Seinfeld, Brian Regan, so many others who do clean comedy often aren't given the same kind of respect as comedians who work blue, who swear and talk about adult issues and whatever. But it actually is harder. It's harder to do clean comedy because you're just eliminating the shock funny filter for the most part and trying to appeal to a broader audience, of people in a corporation who need to consider everything you do to be appropriate, kids or whoever you're doing it for. It just makes it more challenging. Easier to focus on, 18 to 35, for example, and being a little dirty or whatever. So I'm just going to dig right into this. I'm going to go through this, and I'm actually going to share my screen here so you can see what I'm looking at. And I'm going to do this anonymously, so there's no name on the document. Okay, looking good. So I'm going to share here, and I think I'm sharing. Oh, but then last time I shared my screen, I was muted. So if I am muted, that's going to be a problem. So let me cancel that. Well, I guess there's no better way than to just do it. So that's what we're going to do. This is one of the more thrilling videos I've ever been involved in. Okay. Here we go. And we got the wonderful feedback screen. Yeah, it doesn't say anywhere that it's muted, so I'm going to assume that I'm audible. So this corporate speech is called Tortured by Experience Design: How to Lose Your Employees and Customers in 10 Seconds. And items are works in progress. Jokes in purple are ready. Okay, so across the whole speech, you'll be trying to open hard packaging, having to do different things to take care of my body and mind, take pills, exercise, drink water, meditate. And then the 7, I'm not sure what that 7 is. Commandments of Moroni. I'm not sure what Moroni is. A, focus. B, simplicity. C, respect. Focus. Don't do what the customer wants. Don't do anything outside in. Involve everybody inside until you come to a consensus on doing nothing. A2, do really well what should never be done. And then under simplicity, make it as hard as possible to share information. Love complexity, hate simplicity. 5, don't see the big picture. Don't worry about consequences. Do what you need. C, respect. Don't save time for yourself or for your boss, and certainly not for the customer. And number 7, last one, don't say what you do. If you do say, they do exactly the opposite of what you say. All right, so I'm going to pause right there. The irony is working here. So if you're doing a speech about experience design and you're talking about how to make terrible experience design, that's solid. And that could be funny. It's a good foundation upon which to lay basically the whole tone of the speech. What I wouldn't do is complicate it. And there's a lot of stuff in there that complicate the issue. takes so long to share the screen. All this, the 7 Commandments of Moroni, I don't know what that is. And trying to open packaging while you're giving the speech and also doing different things to take care of your body and mind, like take pills, exercise, drink water, meditate. I'm not sure how that dovetails into the topic. So simplicity is everything in comedy. So if you are doing a speech about experience design, stick with the irony. You've got that going for you. Do a speech about how to do terrible experience design. Make all of your jokes obvious. Like these jokes under ABC, these first 3 that are highlighted here, the don't do what the customer wants, don't do anything outside in. Maybe that's an inside term for this field of experience design. I'm not sure. In the age of the experience economy, coming up in my talk today, I'm going to share with you the essential drivers of great customer experience, employee experience, and endurance sports. Okay, so that's kind of a non sequitur, random joke, not bad. Organizations today are going to need 3 things if they're going to retain their customers: more respect, a lot more simplicity, and their endless apathy. That probably gets a little laugh. Number 2, customer experience best practices advocate using empathy maps. Several companies seem to be using very different tools for their customer experience journeys. These geniuses seem to have discovered a different kind of map, apathy maps. So that's a good wordplay joke, and it plays into the irony, so that's all good. Let's identify what annoys, aggravates, enrages, irritates, infuriates, bothers, frustrates, maddens, and riles the user. So now we're square on the irony. That's all in line, and that's good. Use apathy maps, the shortest and surest route to giving customers exactly what they don't want. So you could probably drill into that more. You could talk more about the apathy maps. I'm assuming the empathy map is a term within this field, this experience design field. So that would be good. Number 3, for an unforgettable experience with customer service, we need to be ready with all our passwords, all your ID cards, and all your vital organs for our use once you've died or possibly before. So now I'm a little confused. Now you're almost talking like the company would talk to the customer. You're no longer the guy giving the speech talking to other customer experience people talking about the issue in a corporate speech environment. So that needs to be made more clear. It's an okay joke once you can get it in the right context, because it's more in line with that irony of this is a customer service experience that's going to be really annoying. You're going to ask for all this information plus vital organs. Great hyperbole joke. Doing fine. Number 4, filling up forms online and the kinds of questions they ask gives silly responses. That could work within the line of the irony. Number 5, ever tried finding contact us on Amazon.com? Even Nancy Pelosi can find her G-spot faster. Yeah, let's make it as hard as possible to find any useful information. That's too on the nose, and the Nancy Pelosi joke is way out of left field, and it's not right for a corporate audience. You're going to get groans from that, guaranteed, if you use that joke. 6, the job to design smooth websites is called information architecture, or UX/UI. Feels more like, maybe that's a joke in progress, possibly. Customer service. Recent surveys have shown most financial institutions provide terrible customer service, but I love buying insurance. It's the only product whose customer service I will never have to experience. I don't get that joke. So I'm not sure that that one is speech ready. Number 8, for one thing, we must credit the customer service people. They really uphold the highest standards when it comes to discrimination. They never miss a beat and do not ever discriminate. They are mean every time and with everyone. So you're on the nose there, and I would avoid that if the track you're on for this speech is the irony, where you're trying to make a joke out of a terrible customer service experience. That's the whole goal of the speech. And so that's the track you need to stay on. All your jokes should be on that track. And if you kind of break character and start saying, oh yeah, some people are really bad at it, it's just not going to be as effective. So much better to speak through your subtext. Number 9, instead of improving human connections, social media has made the ghost protocol go mainstream. Ghosting is the new bye-bye. That I'm not getting either. It seems like maybe that's a little bit too complicated. You want to keep it really simple. Simplicity is what works. 10, everybody speaks in broken English today. can have a whole exchange with different broken English accents. That could be a good joke for a corporate speech like this, where you're talking about customer service. You can have various people speaking English as a second language in various ways, make a joke about them, but be sure to not do it at the expense of the person. They can speak English, in an understandable way. That's more impressive than most Americans who can only speak one English. So if you can do that without punching down at them, then I would say go for it. Maybe it would be safer in a corporate environment to just stick with like the quiet talker or the too fast talker, or the person who won't stop to let you say something. They just talk right over you. Those are 3 styles that immediately leap to mind in bad customer service experiences. Then you're not making fun of, like, you get into tricky territory if you're making fun of the Indian accent, the Bangladeshi accent, the Philippines accent. I wouldn't go there. Just not something you should do in a corporate environment, because you get complaints and they won't ask you back. 11, having to press 162 plus account number plus 32 before being able to talk to someone. Plenty of jokes to be had there. And again, going with that irony track, hyperbolize it and make it a ridiculous and absurd thing that you have to press all these keys to get to a person. There's a whole thing that we haven't even touched on. Maybe we will later, about how you don't even get a human, how you're talking to robots and they're just enraging the customer, totally, at cross purposes with the whole idea of experience design. Slow talkers who tell the same stories repeatedly. I've never encountered anyone in customer service who told the same stories repeatedly, but slow talkers, maybe that's a thing. Haven't experienced it myself. Number 13, discovering that none of my credit cards work when I have to check out of a luxury hotel in a foreign country. I'm not sure where that's coming from. I don't really get how that relates. And now you're the customer. So be sure that your point of view is the same. You want to be the person giving the speech about user experience and how it should be really terrible, by way of communicating what it shouldn't be and making it funny. So people are like, oh yeah, okay, we have to make it different. We have to make it the opposite. 14, firstly, they give you broad delivery slots, 10 to 2 or 2 to 6, and then they don't turn up at all. You call them and they say no one was home, while your neighbors are about to call your family members if they see you once more for the 8th time at the waiting for the delivery guy. So I'm not sure what that means, except for, obviously I know what that means about the waiting for the delivery or the cable guy or whatever. You don't really see that anymore. I think that might be played out, the whole waiting for half a day. Maybe in some parts of the world it still happens, not sure. 15, customer service has played a big role in my marriage. Every time my wife creates a ruckus, I call customer service. That's too much. I wouldn't go there. It's not really on the track of your speech. Once you called Merrill Lynch's net worth division. When will the refunds hit my account? Oh, I see. You're talking about a specific instance when you called their customer service. Of course, the Gen Z ABC guy didn't know Jack, and I asked for the call to be escalated to her manager. Actually, I just wanted to listen to a new voice. So now you're the customer again. Again, I would keep the point of view the same and not move it around. And I'm going to skip over that and move down to 16. FAQ about being human. So now I guess we're talking about robots, right? Managed passwords. So much identity checking going on. I find myself wondering all the time, who am I? Who I think I am, who I think I should be. So this could be funny. This is all good within the context of talking to a robot and having to deal with robots in a computer, giving you an identity crisis. That can work. And again, all on the track of having robots as a terrible customer service experience. And you would make it funny for the audience of this corporate speech if you talked about that like that's the way it should happen. And you want to make it so obviously wrong that they laugh. 20 Chrome tabs to put together. Product design that sucks. The sand that sticky sunscreen application conundrum on a beach. Labels that don't peel off easily. Okay, so now we're broadening the customer experience to the actual use of the product. that feels like it's not really in the ballpark of what we're talking about. If it were, it could maybe be a whole section. You could do, oh, and by the way, this goes on. We've got, like all the way up to J in terms of, I don't know what letter of the alphabet is that, 13, 14, something like that. That's a lot of sections for a corporate speech. If you're given a corporate speech, it's probably an hour. Have like 5 sections. You don't need 13, and make them simple. Keep them simple. So you could do, if it's a speech like this is on user experience or experience design, you would have maybe the first part is when you are shopping, and then the second part is when you're buying, and then the third part is when you own the product, and the fourth part would be the customer service for the product. And that's pretty good. Like, that's the whole range of customer experience. It makes sense. It goes in a progression. And then you end with the customer service stuff, which is so far the funniest, because it's the stuff that everybody can relate to. It's where most user experience is really bad. The sort of experience design is very thoughtless, and they could care less about the customer at that point. So continuing here with product design. When did texting take priority over live interactions? We're at 21. Doesn't matter where you are these days. A text is like a sign from God to stop all else and give way. Most often they could have waited for the text message, but no, they must message. If it was so urgent, then they could have called, but no, they just message. Not getting what the joke is there. I guess you're talking about when a company texts you instead of emails you, but I'm not getting the specifics. 22, now I have started wishing Alexa and Siri on, I think you mean wishing them a nice Women's Day. Alexa, Telsa, Siri, and Nest get into a conversation about their owners when their owners have left, just like Secret Life of Pets. I feel like that's way too much of a tangent for this speech. Stick with customer experience, user, experience design. 24, fiction writers have a great future in technology marketing for early stage startups, especially since the use cases / marketing materials for the software are a pure work of fiction. It feels like a little bit too much of a stretch right there. Food. What the fuck can we eat? As kids, we used to be able to go into a supermarket and pick up boxes, and even open one right there if we were really hungry. Today, how do we get to a point where we have to read the back of the box before we can even enjoy the packaging? So I guess this is about using the product, and the product is food. So I would make this very clear by having it in the section of using the product, and then you can use food as an example. You can use other products as other examples. So we'll skip over some of the food examples here. And then society and life. Every side effect is worse than the disease. I think you're talking about medication now at this point. So again, maybe that can work if it's in the context of here's where we're talking about using the product. Well, that might be in the shopping, in the buying of the product, where they have to warn you about side effects. I assume that's part of the experience design. I don't really know this field. We're just talking about how to funny up this speech, how to punch it up. So moving on. Funny things business people say. I feel like you're on a tangent with this category. Jumble all the buzzwords together. I mean, you can do that here and there as a joke. It'll be a good wordplay joke, as long as it's in line with the other irony joke that you've got working overall. We really need to up our game this time. Please ensure our tactics are strategic. Okay, so those are just examples of what you're talking about using corporate speak. I think you're going to have to be a little more absurd than that. Bundle a bunch of words together so they don't make sense at all. Too tired, self-service funerals. I have no idea what that means. H, COVID vaccines. Now we're talking about Zoom calls, and is that part of the experience design? Doesn't seem like it. It seems like that's separate. 33 is also about Zoom calls. So now we're talking about vaccine side effects. I'm really not sure how this fits into experience design. Maybe these are different types of products. I don't think that's the way to go. I think you want to go with the general subjects and the general categories of the stages that the customer goes through when interacting with the company, and maybe drop in specific examples as jokes as needed. And maybe that's what you're trying to do here. It's just not clear what the overarching sections are. So maybe that's just an outline issue. Aging. We visited elderly relatives at the weekend. It's scary driving around their old age community. Okay, I'm not sure how that relates. Organization/employee experience. Maybe that's part of experience design, but that feels off for the subject of this talk. That's the end, but let me see what this says. Meeting your boss's boss is like having an affair. You want to use an analogy to make a joke about that. Again, not seeing how it's relevant in this speech, but maybe. Organizations today are highly matrixed. Nobody knows who's reporting to whom. I mean, I guess based on this, I'm assuming that that is part of experience design, that companies design an employee experience. So maybe there can be a section about that, but it seems pretty niche. I'm not sure. But that's the corporate speech. And that was thrilling going through that. I'm joking. It's very boring doing punch-up work, going through a draft and trying to figure out like ways to make it funny, ways to bring it to life. But this is the boring, doldrum work that everybody must do when creating comedy. Sometimes we just have to sit and, plod through a lot of rough draft type jokes for a long time, before we figure out which ones are really going to work. And sometimes you really can't know until you put it in front of an audience. So we do our best here. And anybody who's watching who has any comments on what you just saw, I welcome you to leave a comment. And the student who submitted this speech to me will read them, and it will be helpful to that person. But that was fun for me, and I hope you enjoyed it. To get more in the weeds on improving comedy, whether you're working on a corporate speech or a comedy article or whatever you got going on, stand-up, a sketch, whatever you're writing, head over to howtowritefunny.com, where I've got a lot of free resources for how to improve your comedy, how to punch it up, how to make sure it's well written enough to put in front of an audience and get really big laughs, is what the end game is all about, of course. So thank you, everybody, for watching. Have a great night, and I'll see you next time.